Hi everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to my channel. Well, I'm excited that I am able to introduce my latest kit, which I am calling Rusty Rails. And one of my favorite types of ephemera is old vintage railroad tickets and postcards and just ephemera in general. So that's kind of where the inspiration came from this. I was fortunate probably about 5 or 6 months ago to get my hands on a big box of original vintage tickets, which is what I was able to use to create my kit. So a lot of these items that you see here are scanned and cleaned up original vintage items, and then some of the stuff I also made. Like I made this one here, I made the little postcard, and then I made this little ticket, and then I just added some train images to kind of go with the theme. So my kit, my passport kit, like I said, is called Rusty Rails, and it's going to have 4 pages. But I also have several other add-ons within the shop that would go great with this kit, so be sure to check those out as well. So in the kit, you're going to get these tags here with the little pocket that I created, or a little pouch, I should say, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's just a little pouch you could put together. And then you have some tickets and tags. You're going to get paper, like I always give. And then you're going to get 2 pieces of 5x7 paper. Now, what's great about these is these are digital images, and you can certainly make them smaller or make them bigger, whatever you want. That's the nice thing about digital images. And let me go ahead and share with you a couple of projects that I created using this kit, and then I'll show you which one we're going to actually put together. So I was playing with this kit, and I was able to come up with 3 different cards. I came up with 2 5x7 cards, and then I came up with an A2 card here. So this one here, what I love about this kit is if you like old vintage rusty grungy paper, but you're just not great at creating it, I have some paper here that gets you started. So with this one here, I was able to make this a little bit bigger to create my 5x7 card. And then I added some stamps from Tim Holtz. So this is a stamp and this is a stamp here. And then I was just able to kind of add to the background. So it's a great starter background for you if you just aren't able to kind of get those colors combined the way that you like them. So this is the card we're actually going to be putting together. But then let me go ahead and share with you a couple of other cards that I put together. This one here, if you want to just create like a fun little card to put your ephemera in, I created this here with a little pocket, and it has the nice tags. And then this one here is just a layered card. This is where I took the tickets and I layered it on a background, and then I popped up the little train image. So there's tons and tons of things you can do with this kit. But like I said, I wanted to go ahead and show you how I put this card together using some of the Tim Holtz elements. So if you like the grungy background, but just kind of need a little head start, this is going to be a great kit for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I ended up taking my 5x7 sheet here, and I just made it 1 page. So I blew it up, and then I put it landscape, and then I cut it right in half. And by cutting it in half, I was able to get 2 pieces that were 5 inches wide. And I'm probably going to end up trimming it, but a lot of times I like to start out with a piece that's a little bit bigger than what I'm going to end up with, because that way, you know, I don't have to worry about it being too planned out. I like my cards to be a little bit organic, so a lot of times I will start out with a piece that's just a little bit bigger than what I'm going to end up with. And as you can see here, like I said, and I'm going to keep this on the background so you don't have to see that glare. Look at all this rusty goodness. I mean, it's just got some great layers to start out with, and then you can go ahead and add on to it. And the way that I created this background is I lightened up some of these images so they don't overwhelm you. They don't kind of take over the card. They're just a background to get you going on your layers. Now, the stamp sets I'm going to use, I tried to get something that I thought would work well with these. It kind of is a steampunk looking design. So I decided to use one of the blueprint stamps, and I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. And then I'm going to come in with some of the stamps from Dapper. Now, you could certainly use this stamp here. I think this would be excellent. In fact, maybe I will do that. I know that I made this one using the blueprint stamp, which is great. It works awesome. And then this one would be great as well. Maybe we'll make both cards. And then some of these other stamps are just great. You've got the numbers here. You've got the finger stamp, which kind of matches this guy here. And then you've got some smaller stamps as well. And a lot of the Tim Holtz stamps would be great for added layers on this type of paper. So just kind of dig through your piles and see what you got. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, because the paper is already inked up, I don't even need to add any distress ink. I mean, it's already perfectly grungy. So I'm going to go right into my layers. And I'm going to go ahead and use my MISTI. Let's see here. And I don't know about the rest of you, but this sure does get dirty a lot. I'm going to go ahead and start out with a fresh pad. And I'm going to take my foam out because these already have foam. And we can get started here. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and let's start with this one here because there's a technique I want to show you that I think will work great. And again, I apologize for the light here. It's actually nighttime. I don't typically tape at nighttime, but I've been quarantined. I've been busy doing other things for my family, and this has been really the only time I've been able to tape. So we're going to go ahead and just work with it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place this right here. And I probably will trim from the bottom versus the top because I just love this rust here. So kind of keeping that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and place this right there. And the ink that I'm going to use a couple inks, and you'll understand why once we kind of get going here. I'm going to use what am I going to use? I'm going to use mustard seed, and then I'm also going to use Archival ink. Okay, and I had thought about using I used Fossilized amber on my original card, but I think I'll use mustard seed. On the original card, I used some of the embossing glaze, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time, and that's why I used the Fossilized amber. So we'll go ahead and just work with this one here. Okay, so very easy. I'm just going to ink this up using my Distress Oxide. And then I will put these magnets here so my card doesn't move. And for this technique, you're going to want to make sure that it's all the way to the edge because you're going to be stamping a couple times. All right, so go ahead and just push this down. And as you can see, it's a very subtle background. It actually is a really good imprint, but it's very subtle. So I don't really need to stamp it again, but I am going to dry it. Now, ordinarily, I don't dry my oxides when I'm doing this, but I am going to show you a technique here. So I want to make sure that when I restamp it, my original ink was dry. And then I'm going to go ahead and just clean this off with my distress sprayer. And the oxides react to water, so it cleans it pretty quickly here. You want to make sure that when you are cleaning your stamp, you don't move it, because we're going to stamp again, and you want your image to be pretty much in the same spot that you started out with. All right. Okay, so once I've got that cleaned up, I'm going to come in with my ground espresso, and this is Archival ink. And then hopefully we're going to get kind of a shadow effect. That's what I'm kind of going for here. So let's start out with the words on top. Yep, and as you can see, you get some of that yellow coming through, which is kind of cool. And I'm not going to stamp the light bulbs. I want to keep those yellow. All right, and then we're going to stamp this down here as well. And I love the shadow that it gives, and that's really the technique that I'm showing you here, is that if you stamp your oxide first and then your archival second, that oxide kind of comes through, creating a really fun shadow result. All right. And even if you get a little bit of a shift, I don't sweat it, because again, it is a background. So if it shifts a little bit, I don't worry about that too much. But I love the results that you get. And you can see that yellow kind of pulling through. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. Okay. And then I'm going to come in and stamp. I'm actually going to stamp it again. Why? I don't know. I want to see what it does here. I'm going to stamp with the Fossilized Amber, and then I think I'm going to actually put some of that embossing glaze on it. So let's just get this a little bit wet here. You want to make sure that you clean off your stamp so it doesn't get contaminated with your archival ink. All right, so now that I've got my Fossilized Amber, I'll go ahead and put it down. And as you can recall, when we stamped it originally, the oxide was pretty moist. So I'm hoping to kind of get that again, so that way the embossing glaze will stick to it. So let's just add this and see what happens. Okay. And as you can see, I'm pretty generous with it. I don't want this to go all over the place, so let's see if I can do this strategically here. All right. And then it's going to go right back in. Oh, nice. And it did stick, so that's going to be a really nice pop on those light bulbs. All right. So let's put this back on. And then let's go ahead and heat set our embossing glaze. What's nice about this embossing glaze is it's just like embossing powder. It is small particles of plastic, and if you have a really nice hot heating tool, it will melt your glaze pretty quickly. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so now that we have our focal point here, we're going to go ahead and add some more elements. Now this is where I'm going to come in using some of the stamps from Dapper. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and use this because I've already got this big finger here poking out. So it kind of goes. I'm going to just put this right here. Let's see here. And I am going to use the Ground Espresso Archival. And one you're going to see here, it's just going to pop. And I love this against this background because, like I said, it looks like your images are stamped underneath, and then you have some popped up images coming on top, which is great for layering. All right. So you got that there. And then let's see, let's go ahead and add some numbers here. Let's see, I think I'm going to do my numbers on this side. Because I know when I trim this, I'm going to probably trim up, so I've got to keep that in mind. And let's see. All right, so now as you can see here, I have 2 rows of numbers, but I really like the single rows, so I'm going to single rows, not rolls. So I'm going to be somewhat strategic when I lay this down, and hopefully I'll just get the top layer here. All right. And if I get some of the bottom layer, that's okay too. I'm not a perfect stamper. I don't need my card to be perfect. Sometimes I like the imperfection. I think that creates interest. So let's go ahead and put that down. Perfect. And I've got my numbers going here now. Sometimes it works out. Okay. And then let's see, what else can we add? Let's go ahead and add this. Now, one thing I noticed when I stamped it, my first card, is I got some of the edge. So if you don't like some of that imperfection, I went with it. It didn't bother me too much. But if you don't like that, you just want to check your stamp before you actually commit to it being on paper. All right, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. All right, so let's just lay this down. And we'll add some more ink. All right, now I did a pretty good job on this. I was careful because I made the mistake last time, but if you do get some of that ink on the edge, just get a paper towel or something and run it down so you don't get any of that line when you're stamping. There you go. So that's pretty good. And then I think for me, that's gonna do it. You could certainly come in, you know, with this. I think we'll save this for the next card, but that's gonna do it for this particular one. And then you can trim it down, layer it, and pretty much you're going to be good to go here. But let's just put this aside. Let's go ahead and do the second piece, which is around here somewhere. All right, which is this one right here. And for this particular one, I do want to use the gear. So it's going to go on this side so I can keep, boy, that magnet is strong. So I can keep some of this rust when if I have to trim it down. All right, so let's go ahead and just put that right there. This is going to just go right here. Again, I don't need to show the whole image. I'm fine with it not showing, but it might be a good idea to have it right side up. What do you think? So yeah, let's just go ahead and do this. I guess we are going to show the whole image. All right. So again, I'm coming in with my Ground Espresso. inking up my gear. Now we'll just place that right down. Okay. And then I'm going to bring the finger in again. Oh, this one's kind of cool because now they're going in the same direction. So I'm going to put this right there. Okay. And when you are stamping, you probably do want to use a darker color, just so you get the good contrast. As you can see, you get the lighter finger and the darker finger, and the contrast just is really, really nice. Okay. And then I'm going to come in again with the numbers. This time I think I'm going to go ahead and use all the numbers. And I'll put that right here. Let's see, actually, I think I'll put it here. It's like, does it matter, Monica? Probably not. But let's go ahead and put that there. Okay, so, and I think that's good. So as you can see, even though we only had to add a few stamps, we've got some really awesome backgrounds going on here. All right, so now that we have both of our backgrounds, we're going to go ahead and trim it up and mat them. But I do want to show you one more trick, and that's kind of just a way to create a little bit more grunge. Now, if you don't like excess grunge, this is a good stopping point. You've already got the background, you've got some good images, and you may not need any more. But what I'm talking about is the stuff like this. So just a little bit more added grunge. And I like the grunge. I'm a grungy crafter, but you may not be. Maybe you just like to have the layers. And that's perfectly fine. But I do want to show you how to add the additional grunge if that's what you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim this down first. And this is going to be a 5x7 card. So let's go ahead and we'll trim it down. Actually, this isn't big enough. So I'm going to trim it down and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I trimmed down my cards, and I wanted to show you something here. So when I trimmed it, I like to mat my cards on cardstock, and I didn't stamp this close enough, so it did cut it off, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind it being organic like that, but if you do, just make sure that when you are figuring out your layering, that if you need to trim it, you take into consideration what you're going to be layering. And as you can see here, when I trimmed it, it cut off some of my stamped images, which I like that. But again, if you don't necessarily like that, you just want to make sure that you have a little planning before you actually go in and start trimming your cardstock. All right, so let me go ahead and show you really quickly here how I worked the rest in. So I'm working with this Distress Embossing Dauber. And really easy technique, you guys. So all you're going to do is just get some of this and then just kind of rub it on the side here or wherever you want your rest to be. And then you're going to add your Distress Embossing Glaze, which is the rusty hinge. Now, if you don't want a lot of rust like this here, then just kind of be cautious of that, because when you pour this on, it is going to stick. And even if you get too much, I'll show you what you can do here. All right, so I went ahead and I just added that. And say I think this is just too much. Well, just kind of rub some of it off, right? I mean, it doesn't stick until you actually heat set it. So if you don't like it, rub it off. And then you can always do some more on this side as well. Maybe I want to put some there. Maybe I want to put some there. And then just add your rest. If it's too much, move it. And then another trick is, remember, this is embossing powder. It will stick to water, so maybe you just want to have a few drops here, right? Not crazy drops. Just wet enough to catch some of that powder. And remember, if it's wet, it's going to stick, so you can still rub it off, but you just want to kind of be aware of that. All right, so now that I have my embossing glaze where I like it, I'm going to go ahead and pour this back in, and we will heat set it, and we'll finish putting the card together. All right, so I'm going to get out my heating tool. And you don't have to do this. I don't know why I'm moving it. But just focus on where the embossing glaze is. And it's almost like caramel when it heats up. But let me tell you something here. So if you're doing your heating gun, and if you do it this way, it could blow your dust. So you want to come straight down. You want the focus of the heat to be right over the glaze, so that way it melts. Because if you do it here, it's going to just be like a hairdryer, and it's going to blow your glaze all over the place. So just be mindful of that. All right, so once you get your glaze exactly where you want it, look how cool that looks. So you've just got a little bit more distressing going on, and then you can put as much or as little as you want, and then all you have to do is mat it and you're good to go. But before we do that, one thing that I like to do is I like to add little sentiments, and on this one I use the look on the bright side, but let's see if we can get something that'll work for both of these. So let's see here. So many choices. Let's see. So shine like the whole universe is yours. That will work for this one, I think. And let's just kind of pop that right on top. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. And then for this one, let's see. I like see possibilities everywhere. And we're going to put that right under the numbers. Okay. And then all you need to do at this point is just mat these onto your cardstock, and you're good to go. So I will show you the finished cards at the end of the video. If you've enjoyed the video, would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget you want to hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell, so it will remind you when one of my videos does get posted. And then, as always, I will leave a list of all the products that I use to create the cards. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again next time.